One of the biggest mistakes I made as a newer investor was either to overestimate the rent or underestimate the renovation costs. In this video, I'm going to pick a real property and walk you through step by step how I personally comp rents and build realistic renovation estimates so that way a deal can be evaluated with confidence. Hi, my name is Ryan Spath. I'm a realtor with Keller Williams Boise servicing the Treasure Valley, and I hope you get value from this video. So for this example, we're going to hop on homes.com. This is one of my favorite websites to use when looking for things simply because there's a little button you can press and it links to the MLS. And oftentimes you can get items such as like the rents, if there's any kind of notes or things that are shared with people. So I'm really bullish on Canyon County. More particularly, I like certain areas in Caldwell that are near downtown Caldwell or certain areas in Nampa that are near NNU. NNU is a college there in Nampa. It's also close to downtown Nampa. There's a lot of gentrification happening in both of these areas, both in Caldwell and in Nampa. But for this example, we're going to pick a property in Nampa. So in the filters on homes.com, multifamily, Canyon County, there's 32 properties. Newest, and I pre-selected this property. It looks like it is a triplex in Nampa. It appears to be fairly turnkey, meaning it is rented and you don't necessarily have to dump a bunch of money in it today to achieve the maximum rents. However, we are going to dive in this a little bit deeper and see what it would cost to be able to drive the rents up to, we'll call it like a market rent, right? So we're going to look at this listing and we see that the property is listed at 525,000 bucks. So we are going to take that information and we're going to plug it in my investment cash flow breakdown. This is just an Excel sheet that I've made that I share with my clients and that I personally use myself to help analyze properties. So 525,000, we're going to assume a 25% down with this. This is a common amount of money down that you're going to have to put if you're using a conventional loan or a DSCR loan. We're just going to assume this down payment. So next we're scrolling down here. We see it has solar panels. You can see in this photo, this is saying that it's owned by the seller, which is good. AC in 24, water line in 21. Looks like there are some other things that were done, some update LVP flooring, remodeled kitchen and bath. But when we click through these photos, we are not seeing any of that stuff. It's all exterior, which looks to be in decent condition. Some blinds are missing here. Probably going to need some new paint. But overall, it looks like a decent little property. So back on this, we are scrolling down and we're just trying to extract information out of this and we're going to plug it into our investment cash flow breakdown to make a good investment decision. So we see the taxes are $31.44 according to this. So we're just going to plug this in here. I already did. I'm just going to assume a high number for the insurance of $2,000 annually. We would want to speak to a local insurance professional and get that exact number to make sure the insurance covers the property appropriately to all of our likings. So next we're just looking for any information we can get. Okay, all utilities are on 1 meter. The irrigation's 86 per year. Water, sewer, and trash. Electric, $115 a month. Intermountain gas, $64 a month. Property taxes, $411.57 a month. All units are on a 12-month lease. Total monthly rent is $3,050. Okay, so we can just do 1,000 for this one, 1050 for this one. So we're going to extract some of this other information here. It says all utilities are on 1 meter. The irrigation is $86 a year. So we'll just put 86. So $7 a month. Electric is $115 a month. Water, sewer, trash is $115 a month. And there would be some sort of lawn care. We're just going to plug in $100 a month. Here in Idaho, there's going to be 4 to 5 months where you're not going to need lawn care, but just for this example, we're just going to plug in $100 a month just so we have something to roll off of. And then this is saying that property taxes are $411.57 a month. So $31.44. So got that here. So there's some discrepancy on that. So I'm actually going to go to the Canyon County Assessor site and we're going to look this property up. So 607. Okay, here it is. View account, tax information. Okay, so 3143. So I think that's right, the 3143. I don't think it's, what does this say? $411 a month. That'd be almost $5,000. That's a little bit high. So we're going to just roll off of what the assessor says and we're going to roll with the 3144. Okay, so next. So we see this, right? We're going to purchase this for $525, 25% down. We know closing costs are going to be about 2.5%. So our total investment on this is going to be about $145,000. Here's our taxes, our insurance, and we're making $3,050 a month on rents. So when we look at this, we're getting a negative cash flow, and our debt service ratio is also under 1%. So this wouldn't meet the requirements for a DSCR loan. When we look at our pro forma a little bit more in depth, we see that this thing actually cash flows negative $300 a month. And this does not include anything factored in for vacancy or any CapEx saving for future repairs. So let's dive in this a little bit deeper. Let's see what we can get if this thing gets brought up to speed with rents or with updating and such. So I like to be as close to this as possible. So let's maybe even go, I don't know, 3/4 of a mile. We're going to say $1,400 and 2-bedroom, 1 bath, check rents. So we see here, without even looking at the pro report, the average rent in this vicinity is $1,450. The median's $1,450 and the average is $1,454. And the upper end, it's going to be closer to $1,600. So when we click to view the pro report, this is where we kind of want to dive in a little bit deeper. So we see on this, these are all 2-bedroom, 1 baths. Looks like we have some sort of carport. I don't even know if this is usable. Actually, this is just for this person to park. And then let's see. Yeah, they're not really usable, right? Because someone's going to park here to go to this unit. The parking's probably going to get a little bit weird on this one too. Probably have to park on the street. So we would actually want to go visit this and see kind of what that looks like. Here you go. You can see people parking on the street here and here. It looks like this person is too. So if this driveway is not wide enough to fit 2 cars side by side, you're going to get into a sticky situation and you're going to have to say who parks where. So back on Rent-A-Meter, when we look at our listing too, we see that this is 2,316 square feet. So if all these units are even, we know these units are about 772 square feet. We're going to plug this in our remodel. So 772, and we're going to come back here and we're going to look on Rent-A-Meter, because we want to look at properties that are similar in square footage when we're looking at rents. So square footage is important, and the amenities that it provides. What do I mean by this? So ours is a 2-1. It does not have any sort of covered parking. It has no garage parking. Likely it looks like we're going to park on the street or kind of figure something out with that driveway. So when I look at properties, I don't necessarily want to consider this because this is 500 square feet. So I probably wouldn't really consider that one too much. This one's a 2-1 apartment. It's a lot bigger too. So let's look at this guy on whatever street this is. So for this, I'm going to pop over here and I'm going to look on Zillow. And I'm literally just going to I just copy and paste that address. And I'm going to plug it into Zillow because I'm trying to get an idea of the finishes of this property. So this looks like it's some kind of little house or maybe a small duplex. Looks like it has a semi-updated kitchen, kind of a random stove and microwave set over here. Looks like LVP floor throughout, pedestal in the bathroom, some tile, maybe some fresh paint, no ceiling fans. So we got that guy. What else do we have? Okay, so this one for 1,400, a little bit bigger than ours on Elder. So we're going to copy this guy. We're going to go back here into Zillow. We're going to paste it here. Okay, this one looks a little nicer, right? Looks like it might even be a detached house. Newer LVP floor, has a nice door on here. Looks like we've got some new baseboards. Nice upgraded kitchen, new cabinets. Looks like stainless steel appliances. So this is a comp. So this is showing us what's possible, right? We see this property is a little bit bigger than ours. It's 792 square feet. And remember, ours is 772. So I guess pretty similar in square footage. So now let's dig in a little bit deeper on this. So we see that this one's getting $1,400 a month. So let's assume that we're able to renovate our properties to meet this standard, and we can also get this $1,400 a month. So instead of this 1,000, I'm going to put 1,400. So now we're going to need to figure out how much money it's going to cost us to actually achieve these kinds of rents. Because as you can see, if we were able to get these rents right now, everything gets a little bit better, right? Like we're getting a little bit over a 6% cash on cash return. And then when we come here to our pro forma, even with paying for the lawn, electricity, water, sewer, trash, we're able to make, $700. We plug in a vacancy number here, let's say 5%. We're still making $500. So if we save a few $100 for future repairs, this thing's still cash flow positive. But the question remains, how much money is it going to cost us to get to this? So for that, I've created this little remodel cost sheet. So we're going to click on this guy. This property is 772 square feet. So I really like this life-proof LVP flooring from Home Depot. If we click on this, you can see this is what the finish is, right? We come to it. This is literally what it is. It's 20.1 square feet in a case. Looks like it's $2.49 a square foot. So when we pop back here to our sheet, we see that for 20.06 square feet, this is the cost, right? So we know that it is 772 square feet. We're going to divide that by 20.06 square feet. So we're going to need that many of these items. So the cost per box to get this much square footage, $57.97. So for the flooring alone, it's going to cost us just about $2,500. Here in Idaho, you're going to pay anywhere from $2 to $3 a foot to install. So for this example, I always just like to shoot high. and save $3. So you can see for just the floorboards, it's going to be 2,500 plus 2,300. So you're already at 4,800 bucks. To get the baseboards, there's a similar way to figure this out. So what we want to do is we just take 33% of the square footage, and that's going to give us a rough estimate for how much baseboard we're going to need. And I really like this baseboard. This is one that I've used on my properties. Just kind of looks good. It's a good finish. It kind of makes the property feel a little higher end and helps you achieve those rents on the higher side. So it's going to cost us about 400 bucks, 410 bucks in cost just to buy these materials. You know, it's $2 to $3 to get this installed a foot. So we're going to say it's going to be $659. And then just running down this list real quick, it's just sort of a rough estimate of all the prices. If this is a property we are actually going to pursue, we would dive into these a little bit deeper and make sure all the prices were concise. But if we were to paint the interior walls, paint the baseboard, paint the exterior, I'm just assuming $2,500 labor for inside and outside. These are smaller units. The refrigerator, we're going to put the stainless in. We're going to put a stainless stove, microwave, dishwasher, and then just these inexpensive washer and dryer. Some people don't provide them. Personally, I like to provide them. I think it helps get you a tenant that's willing to pay a little bit more money when you do provide them. Everyone has their own preference. We're going to plug 3 fans in the rooms, 200 bucks a piece. We've got some flush mount lights, some door handles. I really like the black and white look. I think it's just timeless and classy. We're going to change the hinges to be black hinges. And then we're going to think we may possibly need some of these French doors for the laundry room possibly, and also for the closets. And then we can measure for the exact, but I just know something this size, it's going to be about $3K. Lowe's and Home Depot both have great cabinets that would kind of fit in this. And then if we're going to do a level 1 sink with undermount, or a level 1 granite with undermount sink, it's going to be about $2,500 for these smaller units. And then just the kitchen faucet of 170 bucks. So it's going to be about 22,000 bucks. And this is a per unit item, right? So let's remember this is a triplex. So if we multiply this number times 3, what is this? We'll call it $67,000. So when we come back here on our investment analysis, if we just add this to our total investment, we see now we're going to be in this project about 211 grand. So when we scroll down a little bit more, we see that our cash on cash return drops down to 3.15%. So I don't know if this would be something that you would be interested in. Personally, for myself, we try to get 6 to 8% in today's market. That's just our target number. That's just straight up cash on cash return with this kind of general landscape. Doesn't include principal pay down, depreciation, all the other fun things that we get with real estate analysis. So again, I just want to summarize the process. We found a property. We dug into the rents. I showed you how I like to comp the rents. And then we just did a quick overview of how to pull the estimates to do some light, we'll call this like a light rehab, nothing major. We're not moving any walls. We're just putting floors down, possible baseboards. Maybe we're going to spruce the kitchen up a little bit, just kind of smaller items, nothing major, no permits required. And this kind of analysis is important. It's really crucial to know your exact numbers and kind of know what you're getting into before you get into it. And also if you're capitalized well enough to take something on like this. And the tighter your numbers are, the better the project's going to turn up for you. So if this sounds like something that you're interested in, or if I can help you analyze any deal that you have going on, please feel free to send me a DM, leave me a comment on here. You can also find me on Bigger Pockets. Thank you so much.